Hey, everybody, this is Cam. Welcome to the Everyday Arborist podcast. This is episode 13, and we took a good bit of July off with family, and I think basically every arborist is pretty busy in July with either family or work, so it was a good little break, but we're back at it again with another episode, and this week I have the honor and privilege to have Jaime Merritt from Davie Residential in Santa Cruz, California. He's also the creator of the Akimbo and co-creator, inventor of the Downrigger block. So, yeah, welcome, Jaime. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before that you live in California, but where did you grow up in California? How did you what was your childhood like there? So,
I was born in Arkansas, like outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, and then my
okay.
mom moved back to Cal. She was born in Berkeley, California. She moved back to California when I was only like maybe 18 months, and then so we moved up north of the Bay, Sonoma County. There's Napa, Sonoma, the wine country up there. A
Yeah.
little town in there called Glen Ellen, and you know she moved on. We moved on to a big. It was like the remnant of a ranch, right? So the ranch, the old rancher died, and his wife sold off the ranch in parcels, and then ours was the last 5 acre parcel that had the house and the barn and all the outbuildings and stuff.
Hmm.
And so I grew up there. Pretty. I mean, it felt really rural. It was like I said, it was an old ranch, so there was like a big hay barn. There was like an old ramshackle chicken coop, big battery coop. It was like falling out, falling down, and so like as a kid, we just run around and like crawl through the buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
Try to sneak around. My mom was like, "You don't play down in the bottle dump, smashing bottles and stuff," because you like, the back then they just throw all the trash down the ravine. So
Yeah.
we go down there and dig around. There's washing machines, there's car parts, there's like
Oh, yeah.
bottles, all the kinds of cool old bottles and pottery and stuff. It was like a little treasure hunt, but we were down to like smashing bottles when we were kids. But yeah, so that, it was kind of like I kind of grew up as like a little country kid. Like I just spent all my time outside. My
Yeah.
friends and I, we loved going out and catching like snakes and lizards. So we just do that all day, and then we'd make mud in the mud in the yard and like roll around
Wow.
in the mud. One of our favorite games was to we'd dig a big hole in the ground. We'd get mud going. We'd get naked. We'd roll in the mud, and then we'd climb up on the tin roof of the barn and lay out in the sun until all the mud dried off and crackled. We'd go like like we can't move, and then we jump down and like shake it all off, and then jump in the mud and do it again.
Oh my gosh. It's like
But
nature sunscreen in mud or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's no wonder we didn't catch some like hantavirus or something,
Oh my
playing in the old
gosh.
barns and stuff. But yeah, so that was like it was like a super cool place to grow up, and it was a lot of like my mom, she went to school for like geology, a bunch of other science stuff, so she was always really smart about like, what plants in the yard can you eat, like what trees, what the trees are around us, what the animals are around us, always asking her questions like, what's this? What's this? Why is that? Why is that?
Yeah.
And she always had an answer, so I was always really like kind of tuned into the natural world. That's kind of what interested me, like snakes and lizards and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But the the tree part, um, my my grandparents they had a house down near Berkeley, like other side of the hill from Berkeley, a place called Orinda. And so they had a little orchard. They had apple trees. They had apricots, persimmons, a bunch of other stuff. And I sort of learned how to prune trees there. Learned
Hmm.
about like pruning cuts and how trees grow and how trees like respond to pruning and you know the fruit tree side of it, which is a lot more um, what do you just call it? Functional pruning, I guess, maybe
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
call it? You're pruning it for that very specific purpose of like producing fruit. It's very you're not pruning it natural, right? You don't want it to
Yeah.
look natural. You want it a certain way. Um, and then my grandfather was an engineer in the army in the Korean War, and he had a big workshop, and he would do, he did some woodworking. And he, at one point when I was little, I think maybe when I was 3, he started. He actually like designed and built his own airplane, like from scratch, like
Oh, like
the
full
whole
size
design.
airplane.
Yeah, full
Oh
size
my
airplane, and everything.
gosh.
And I remember as a kid, like mixing the epoxy. Like to this day, I like the smell of epoxy
Oh my gosh.
because playing around with it when I was little probably did some brain damage, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
yeah, well, I haven't taken an intelligence test, so uh, so yeah, I kind of grew up. I grew up around like engineering and like building stuff, and then trees and like the outdoor world. And I think I always liked art. I always liked drawing, making stuff. But then, like in high school, I was really focused on science. That was what really interested me, and shop class. Like I figured out in California, or I don't know if it's everywhere, but in high school you have to take a foreign language class,
Yeah, yeah.
and I found out that it wasn't actually a requirement. It was only if you wanted to go into college that you needed that language class, and it helped you. It would be better for you in college. And I was like, wait, I don't have to take it? You mean I can take shop class like three I can take all three shop classes at
Yeah,
once? Like I'm gonna do that. Like I don't plan on going to college. I'm fine. Like I'll
yeah.
do that. So I took like drafting, wood shop, metal shop, photography. Yeah, I took all the shop classes I could except for auto shop.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and so it's like, the metal shop was awesome. We had an awesome teacher. He just kind of let us do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I remember getting this huge file, and then carving it into this like sword. It was like a 2 foot long sword. And you're not supposed to make weapons, in class. But like he liked me, so he kind of let me do it on the side.
Yeah,
He knew I wasn't gonna like hurt anybody with it, but it was like,
yeah.
it's like hard, good steel. So it was like an actual real sharp sword. Um, all kinds of other stupid stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, so then out of high school, I was really interested in woodwork. I started doing a lot of woodworking in high school, mostly making like paraphernalia, turning stuff on a lathe. I just like turned pipes and stuff for all my friends and
Yeah.
bowls. I made a few bowls, but woodworking was what really interested me at that point in time. And so a friend of mine who lived up in Eureka, Northern California, he was like, "Hey, let's go to the junior college up there. They got a woodworking program." And so I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." I moved up there and I enrolled in that class, and we did that for like a year and a half, and then ended up getting a job out of that woodworking class with a cabinet maker in
Hmm.
in town. And so I basically just went to work in the cabinet shop, and I worked there for I think 3 years. And he would make high end kitchens and like dens and libraries and stuff like that. We'd do like 4 or 5 projects a year, maybe a little more than that.
Was it
But
like his own? Was it own supply of wood, or was he getting it like shipped in from areas? Or
no, he would there was a really good wood supplier up there
huh.
that everybody kind of used, and so he would go down. It's pretty local. You just drive down there and buy the materials from there.
Yeah.
But there was also some times when like there's a lot of it's a logging town, or it was a logging town, and so there was a lot of we'd find stuff that was milled. There was a company that milled some local hardwood, tried to make local hardwoods kind of a thing for a while, but like the thing in Northern California, it's like the redwoods and the firs. Those are the big timber woods.
Yeah.
There aren't really any local hardwoods that are actual like commercial. You know what I mean? So like there's the tan oak, there's madrones, there's other oaks, there's the bay laurel, and all of those are really pretty woods, but none of them are commercially viable, I guess, at the time right now,
Yeah.
because either they don't dry well, or they don't grow straight enough to actually get good logs out of them, or they have some other characteristic that's just you know, not manageable, but commercially like doable.
Yeah.
But we'd find stuff like that every now and then, and we'd work with it, and then that's kind of what got me into actually like, you know, cutting trees. Was like at some point we would, I'd be doing side projects. We'd do the shop stuff, and then me and my friend, we had a little shop in our house when we were sharing a house, and then when we got our own houses, we would, have our own little shops, and we would go out and mill stuff that we found out in the woods.
Hmm.
We'd go out. I got a chainsaw mill from an old dude, and we went out and milled up this big cedar log we found out in the woods, made these nice slabs out of it, and then tan oak makes really nice wood, but you just can't buy it, right? So go out and mill it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we got really into doing that. And then
But it's like the gnarly stuff that, like some of like the twisty stuff that is better for like smaller woodworking, right? Versus,
yeah,
somebody who wants it for like cabinets or tables is going to want like maybe a more legitimate wood that's not maybe like the more curvy ones that you're talking about.
for cabinets and tables, you want all the wood for the table to look the same, right?
Yeah.
So it's all got to come from the same tree, and then from that tree needs to be kind of consistent, like color grain wise throughout the whole thing, enough to get your project anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, for if you have a smaller project, then it doesn't really matter. It's like you just have a small piece of wood. The rest of the tree looks way different, but your small piece is plenty
Yeah.
for what you're doing. Um, so yeah, for sure. But yeah, some of the smaller stuff is the really interesting stuff, or the really twisty stuff. You get like,
Hmm.
all the cool grain, the burls and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I ended up moving away from Eureka and moving back down to my mom's place. Um, and getting a job. I got a job. I really briefly got a job with a tree company in Sonoma, so like back to growing up, right? Like I grew up out in the country. We had lots of trees, so I was always climbing trees, like
Yeah.
always. Like I'd be climbing trees wherever I could find them.
And what
We
kind of
had tree.
trees? What kind of trees were like big around Sonoma, or like the most common ones?
Well, so Sonoma, there's a lot of big valley oaks, really big valley oaks. There's a lot of bay laurels. There's a lot of coast live oaks. And on our place, it was an old farmstead, so there are a lot of old orchard trees. There are like plum trees. Um, there was some apple trees when I was little.
So it's
Uh,
like the perfect climbing gym. It's
yeah,
like a
it was
world
great.
of
We had
climbing
we
trees.
had
Yeah.
um we had a cool little fort that we built up in a plum tree. It was like a big purple plum tree. We
Wow.
dragged up a bunch of boards from one of the collapsed barns and just like nailed them together all higgledy piggledy.
Yeah.
It was like he's like, oh, don't go over on that side, the whole thing will tip. But just stay on this side.
Yeah.
Uh, and like no joists, it's just like slap a whole bunch of boards on top of each
Yeah.
other till it's thick enough to hold. uh, but yeah, so I was always climbing trees. So I was always had an interest in climbing trees. It never occurred to me that like that could be a job. Like that was an actual like
Hmm.
career choice. I was like, I knew people trim trees. I knew that there was, you see the Davy trucks and stuff around.
Yeah.
Um, but so when I moved back, I was like, wait a minute, like that would be fun to try. And I ended up working for this guy. It was like the old man, the son, and a ground guy. And it was like, pretty obvious right off the bat that if I was interested in climbing, that this was not, the son he was gonna be the climber.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
gonna take over the company, and there wasn't really room because there was just three guys. There wasn't really room for another climber. And
Hmm.
they basically wanted me to like get a CDL and be their driver and ground guy. So I was like, yeah, no. And
Yeah.
I had a bunch of projects at my mom's house that I wanted to focus on, like I was remodeling the basement, doing some other stuff. So I ended up getting a job at a furniture restoration shop doing, restoring old furniture, and then did that for 3 years. And then he retired, my boss there retired, and then I thought again, I was like, you know, I could get another job like woodworking, but I kind of like the working outdoors part of it, and I kind of
Yeah.
like I like the variety of the jobs, like day to
Hmm.
day, and I like the sort of the problem solving aspect of it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna find somebody else, go find another tree company, and I found this guy down the road who is like a really sort of a character. he was like he was like I mean, California has hicks too, all right? And so he's like a California hick.
Yeah.
He used to work for Davy a long time ago, like back in the 70s, I think. But he had this another like 5 acre place on a different part of town, but he had like broken down tractors. He had all these like half of a barn that he and his dad had built out of like pallets. It was like half collapsing. He had like trailers parked everywhere that were full of like stuff.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, he collected these one single cylinder tractors. He collected like SpongeBob memorabilia, and he had a huge collection of pornography. And he was just like, he like most of the time he was doing firewood, right? He had a big firewood processing operation, and then he would do tree jobs just kind of on the side, and mostly he'd do them to get the firewood and bring it home. And I showed up and I was like, "Hey, can I work for you? I can do tree work." He's like, "What kind of knots can you tie a bowline? Can you tie a clove hitch?" He's like, "Yeah, I can do that." And he's like, "All right, here's a list of the stuff you need to buy. Go get that stuff and come back." And I was like, "Okay." So I was like, bought a Weaver saddle, bought a True Blue climb line,
Huh.
bought some Buckingham spikes, and a hard hat and some boots, like the classic like 16-inch tall like leather boots. Like
Yeah.
he's like, "That's what you need." Like, okay, sure. And so
Logging
like,
style. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, dude, my knees, it killed my knees.
Yeah.
They're so heavy. And it did end up giving me problems later. But
Did they have hobnails on them, or was it like just like a sewn?
no, they were just like hard leather sole or
Yeah.
whatever, Vibram soles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked for him like a year and a half. Like I'd split firewood, do tree jobs maybe once or twice a week. He let me climb whenever I could, like convince him to let me climb. Um, and then he just basically started doing more firewood, like all the
Hmm.
time. And then he
I wouldn't
found a guy
imagine
that,
that the market. I didn't know the market would be that huge in California for maybe like I guess in the northern section, it's colder that time of year, like for
I mean,
firewood or.
this was back in 2004, 2003. Yeah, there's a lot of wood burning, and it gets cold in the winter. It doesn't snow,
Yeah.
but it's wet. It's wet and cold all winter long.
Yeah.
And a lot of houses, especially back then, were all wood burning stuff.
Hmm.
A lot of the older houses in town when they were built, like that's what they were built with.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense now. Yeah. Yeah.
and he's getting the wood for free and processing it
Yep.
and selling it. He's making, just he's got to pay me. What was he paying me? He's like $14 an hour or something like that. But yeah, he found a guy that could split way faster than I could. So he's like, there were like 2 weeks and he didn't have me come in. I was like, so I'm gonna go find somebody else. Like this
Oh
is
my
not
gosh.
like this is a little too slow. Come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found another guy who was more of like a legit tree guy,
Yeah.
although he also had his quirks. Um, but he was like, he knew what the ISA was. He knew like proper pruning. Like he tried to capture a lot of like high end clientele. There's a lot of big properties with a lot of money in Sonoma, and they have a lot of really big trees, and they really are willing to pay to take care of them
Yeah.
and do a good job on them. Not just strip them out or butcher the shit out of them. So that was really cool. And I think at that time I was really kind of like thinking about um, getting my arbor certification. That was on the radar. And
Hmm.
so like working for him, it's like kind of like, okay, you know, let's learn like everything I can from him. And at the same time, I enrolled in the junior college course. They had an arboriculture class that Bruce Hagen was teaching, and he was one of the he was big in the ISA like way back in the day. I think he was the editor for the ISA magazine for a long time. But
Huh.
anyway, he was a great teacher. Like he was really cool.
Yeah.
He would just come into the classroom and he'd plunk down his laptop and he'd just have like thousands of photos from like thousands of jobs or tree, just sites that he'd gone and seen. And he
Huh.
had such a huge collection. He would like, here's a tree, and here's this pruning job we did on it, and then here's it 2 years later, and then here's it 2 years later, and here's it he's got like 15 years
Wow.
of pictures of this one tree, so you could really see like the progression of like what did this pruning do? Like when you finally got to the end of it, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Like, you know, there's some restructure job where they like hack the ever loving crap out of this tree, and at the end of like 10 or 15 years, you're like, that thing looks great. Like, you know, being able to see it from that time frame is really kind of really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost like
but yeah,
miniature case studies of everything.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
basically what the whole class was. He would just like run through case study after case study of like whatever he was talking about. Was it pruning or was it pests or disease or hardscapes, like stuff like that. He'd have a case study for everything. Be like,
Yeah.
so that was really cool. That was kind of my speed. I'm not so much like the like quiz study type focus. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't capture me as much as like
Hmm.
the actual like here's the real world like
Experience and all
example.
that. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was really cool.
Was that when you caught the? Did you kind of catch the itch for climbing around that time frame, like, or was it even earlier than that? Like, you climbed as a kid, but once you start like tinkering with the gear and like ropes, I think there was like a time period where, like, when I first started in Kansas City, where I was working at, there was like that awkward 6 months of like you're like, oh, what is all this stuff? And then once you
Yeah.
finally get past that like initial hurdle, either you have people that get like super fascinated with it, which I feel like is a majority of us, but some people are like,
Hmm.
I just don't know if it's for me. But like, was that kind of
Right.
the time frame you were at with like getting into it?
I think it was pretty early. Well, like I said,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was an actual career choice for a long time. But when I was a kid, like I really climbed trees. Like I was like up in 90-foot redwoods, just free climbing. Me and my
Wow.
friend and I, because he lived up in Eureka in the redwoods, and we just go out and climb trees. And we'd be like, we'd find a big redwood, and we'd find another redwood that was nearby. We'd climb that redwood and then climb across, and then climb up the other ones. Like, it'd be like, "Hey, mom, look at my." She's like, "I don't want to see you. Don't show me. Just
Please get down.
get out." But so I think like I climbed everything as a kid, and it was I ended up well I I haven't figured out a good way to segue into the story, but I ended up getting electrocuted climbing a tree when I
Oh
was
my
like 7.
gosh.
But I'll tell you that. But first, so yeah, I was always like really into climbing trees, like every tree I could get to. And then at some point, my mom was like, "Dude, like I'm getting you a rope and a saddle, and you are using it because you're freaking me out."
Hmm.
And so she well, not my brother's dad, right? He went out to like REI or something, bought like a rock climbing harness and like a static rope and some carabiners and some pulleys, and they just gave them to me, and I was like, I didn't know what to do.
Oh
I
my
didn't know what to do with
gosh.
them, and so I was
Wow.
like, okay, I'll play around with it. I'll figure it out. And I had no idea what like a climbing knot was, and even if I did, this rope was like not. It was so stiff, like you couldn't climb. You couldn't tie a knot in it, like not like
Hmm.
a climbing knot, not a
Make like
Blake
a
hitch or
Z
anything.
every time you try to coil it.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Uh, I think you could. I mean, when it was new, I have a lot of memory of it. Like I had that rope for like 15 years, and by the end, it
Yeah.
was like a piece of cable. But I think early on, it must have been soft enough you could tie something in it.
Yeah.
But I was fooling around. Like I was like, okay, I got pulleys and I got carabiners. If I throw the rope over that way, and then I put a pulley on it, and then I bring it down, I can pull myself up, and then I can let myself down. But then, how do I get the rope out when I'm done? Like when I'm on the ground? And I came up with this like 2 to 1, and I'd lower myself down, and I'm like up in this oak tree, and I just grabbed the wrong leg of rope, and I just went zing all the way to the ground because there's no climbing nut. I was just pulling myself up out of 2 to 1. It's like wah,
Oh
slam,
my
and I was like,
gosh.
that was the only time I'd ever fallen out of a tree was when I first started trying to use a rope.
Wow.
uh, but I just I never went anywhere with that. Like I couldn't figure out a good way to do it. So when I
Yeah.
finally went to work for that guy, whose name was Jamie, by the way. When I finally went to work for Jamie, he showed me the Blake's hitch and like how to use double rope, how to like the saddle and everything that's actual like proper tree climbing gear.
Hmm.
And so immediately he's like, oh, this is great. Like this makes sense. Like you're not gonna fall out of the tree if I grab the wrong end of the rope. Um, but it was also obvious that it wasn't like fantastic. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like the Weaver saddle would like crush my ribs if I was like
Yeah.
trying to if the flip on was not straight in front of me, if it was at all above me, like I could barely breathe. Like the spikes were really uncomfortable. Like the metal shanks would just dig into my shins.
Yeah.
And then the Blake's hitch is like slow and hard. Flip hip thrusting up these trees.
Hmm.
Um, so as much as I could, I was looking for better ways to do it. And there was I don't know when I found the Cheryl Tree catalog, because the Cheryl Tree catalog, they had all those little like pictures and stuff in it with little techniques all the time,
Hmm.
and that was really cool. But I think
It's like the
first,
cartoon guy in there too.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
cartoon guy, so there was like tons of cool stuff in there. But I think I came across that later. I think first I came across like on the internet some chat. There were the chat groups or
Like
uh,
a tree buzz or
forum sites. Yeah. So
yeah.
Tree Buzz and the Treehouse were the two that I kind of found, and just like as soon as I found those, I was just like reading all the back stuff, all the back articles or whatever, all the current stuff as much as I could, and just like you know getting all the little tips and tricks and techniques and like just working them into like my climbing, like a pulley for tending the Blake's hitch, and then a prusik cord for you just replace the Blake's hitch with a prusik cord and pulley, um, and just kept going with that until I ended up moving down here to Santa Cruz because my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, she moved down here to go to school,
Hmm.
and so I was like, all right, I'm going down there,
Yeah.
and then that's when I got the job at the tree company here. That was, so it was like the first guy was like, very rural, very like podunk type of guy. The
Yeah.
next guy, he was like, he legit was trying to be an arborist. I can't remember if he did have his arborist certification or not. I think he may have. I'll have to ask him. But, he cared about arboriculture,
Yeah.
but like he was also kind of an alcoholic and like had a hard time, you know, with anger issues with sometimes with customer service, stuff like that.
Yeah.
His lead climber when I first started was an actual crackhead. So like
Oh,
and then
yeah.
so I came down here and it was actual like a bigger company. So they had like, 9 or 10 guys. They were running like 2 or 3 crews. They had several big trucks, several chippers. They had a bucket truck. They had all this other stuff that just was much more official, much more
Yeah.
legit. And then being around all the guys, it just happened to be like a really good group of guys who were also interested in, improving their game, like we would all just, I mean, there was some competitiveness, like who could prune this tree the fastest or who could do the best job. But then there was also like a really like, we were really into like, oh, check out this new, prusik hitch that I found, or check out this new like way to arrange your flip line or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all
um,
good.
so that was really cool. That just kept things going, like improving, improving, improving. Um, different ropes, different like saddles. Like there's a big time where we were like, dude, what's the best saddle? Like, you know, try this one, try this one, try this one. And then like the Tree Motion came out, and there was like the Buckingham Ergovation, you know. But we didn't have a lot of money, so we're like
Hmm.
looking at it, want to try it. We'd buy like he bought an Ergovation. We tried that out. I think I don't I don't remember when the first Tree Motion we actually got the first Tree Motion. It was not for a while. Like we really couldn't afford we really couldn't afford like the
Yeah.
best stuff, But we'd look at it and we'd like try to emulate it with like our setup. Um, but then at some point I went and checked out a competition climb or a tree climbing competition, and there was one that was held in San Francisco that year. One of the Western chapter, I think it was a Western
Hmm.
chapter climbing competition, and way back then, even like Mark Chisholm was in there. I remember like watching him, and
Wow.
I think he climbed that climb single rope, but that was before there was no rope wrench, there's no like hitchhiker, none of that stuff was around yet. He was just climbing with I think it was like a gree and like
Wow.
the Jumar setup, and just like everybody was like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Like, this that looks weird. Like, that's not how you climb. But he killed it. I don't think he won. I think he ended up. I don't remember if it was him, but somebody. I think he did end up getting his rope stuck. He's like pulling out all his gear after the Masters climb, and the last thing, like his friction saber got stuck right up
Oh.
there, and he had like tons of time left. And I remember him like trying to throw a line up there, trying to get it out, and just like ran out of time. And everyone was like cheering for him. It was like, yeah, you can do it, you can do it. It's like, oh no. But yeah, that was the very first time I ever saw like SRT, and that
Hmm.
was before anybody was really talking about SRT.
Yeah.
Um, but just going to the competition and seeing everybody like climbing and like the level of climbing versus like what we had at home was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like these people are like badass.
Yeah.
Like there's so many like cool techniques that like they're doing. Like how can I integrate that? How can I get that for myself? Um, but
Yeah, that's
I
really
think
awesome. I mean, the group of guys you describe of that you got to work with down there, like the 9 or 10, and how you guys kind of bounced each other's energy and passion off. Like, I
mhm,
was really lucky to feel like I think I started the company I started with. My mentors and the people that were like above me and that I looked up to were those kind of guys, and so I was like an
yeah,
instant buy-in to the whole tree
right,
industry and like climbing because I'm like whatever they have going on, I want to be like
yeah,
a part of, and that's really cool.
and it keeps it interesting. Like tree work is really hard work. Like you know, there'd be days where it's like, you're cramped up, you're like exhausted, like overheated, but at the same time, it's like I had fun today. Like,
Yeah,
me and my foreman like raced through this tree to see who could get to the ground first, and like, haha, you have to do all the brush because I made it down first, you know, or just like, comparing your like I made up this new climbing knot, like check it out, it's way better than the one we had before.
yeah.
Just like, the hard work seems so much easier when it's like there's something interesting or entertaining, you
Well,
know?
even in the midst of the hard work, I don't know if you had moments like this. I mean, I still have them still, but even like when you are beginning your climbing journey and you look up and you see people doing these incredible like I always go back to one of my friends, John Roth, like who he's like a taller guy, slender, but he was always climbing SRT and like pushing the limits of like what looked possible in a tree. And so it
Yep.
would just be like a hot summer day, you'd be raking or picking up limbs and you look up and he'd be doing this incredible limb walk. You're like, oh my
Man,
gosh, this
what is
is
this guy doing?
yeah, it's so cool. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it definitely has those gaps there between hard work and this is the
Yep.
coolest freaking thing ever.
Yeah, we were all about the same level, like all of us. And then our boss, he was like old school, like badass old school style, He just spiked up fucking big ass saw, sorry.
Slayer
Yeah, Slayer.
style.
He's all about getting the job done.
Yeah,
And so he'd like tolerate us like messing around, but it's like you got to get it done. Like quit messing around. Like when I brought a throw ball out, he's like, "What are you doing with that? Just throw your rope
yeah,
up there and start from the bottom." I was like, "But I can get my rope to the top." Like, what do you mean? And then I kind of have to prove that like
yeah.
what I'm doing is like actually gonna like improve my getting it done ability. But like like I was saying, the tree buzz in the tree house, like that's where I was seeing like all the guys like doing the badass limb walks and like you know, doing the really cool stuff or the competitions, you go to that and you see like, man, these guys are like way, way more levels above me.
Yeah.
And, it is achievable, you know. Um, so yeah, it was really cool. It was really, really fun.
Hmm.
Um, and then the treehouse was the same place as the tree buzz was the same place where, Kevin Bingham started developing the rope wrench
Yeah.
and was basically like doing it in real time, like posting pictures of it, like discussing it, like on the tree buzz. So we got to watch like from the beginning as he like sort of developed it into
Because
what it became.
it was like a box wrench at first, wasn't it? Like, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah, it
I've
was just a
heard like
box wrench.
he explained it was like storm jobs in Texas, and he was basically having to climb like a huge network of I don't know if it was Osage or something, but he was using a
Mm-hmm.
box wrench and going from like ladders,
Yep.
and then using basically just traversing across the canopy on that. That's really cool.
Yeah. I even tried it out. I was like, "Ooh, if he could do it, I could do it." As I took a box wrench and I like filed the edges off, and I was like, "Let's see how it goes." It's like,
Yeah,
hey, it does kind of work. Like, Like he obviously like developed it to a much higher degree that actually worked. But but yeah, that was really cool for sure. And there was all kinds of like, there was like Kevin was on there doing the rope wrench, and then the guy, Paul Cox, he invented the Raptor
Hmm.
motorized descender.
No, I'm
He
not
was one of the
familiar.
first.
I know
He
the
was one of the
Raptor, but I'm not familiar with
Yeah.
him.
So
Yeah.
he invented the Raptor, and you familiar with the hitchhiker?
Yeah. Yep.
So he invented the hitchhiker. Um, and then he also was one of the first to actually put a Senna headset on his hard hat.
Wow.
Um, so he was on the Tree Buzz, or Tree House, working on all that stuff. And then there's all kinds of other guys, with like, there's a guy on there who he like worked for years and years for the Forest Service, so he'd have all these cool stories about like doing these huge trees up the Pacific Northwest for the Forest Service. They get called out to do hazard trees, and there's this like ginormous, like huge trees. So it's like so many cool stories of like like some of these guys are like big loggers, some of these guys are climbers or competition climbers, some of these guys are just like everyday tree guys, and they're all
Was
talking
Reg
about.
Coates on there? Or I'm not
I
sure if he
can't
was.
remember. He may have been. I don't think he was super active. I remember seeing his YouTube videos a lot.
Yeah. He does
Like
similar stuff
especially
like that, like getting called out to forest projects, and like
big stuff.
some
Yeah.
of his videos are super wild to watch. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
this is a completely rotten fir at the base,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Like what?
I'm at the
You're
top of
crazy.
it. And
Yeah.
so, which he had, I don't know where it's at right now, but I mean, I think like 6 or 9 months ago, he shared a video of like a device that I guess he had
Hmm.
worked on, but I haven't seen recent stuff of it. Like, I haven't kept
Yeah.
up with it, but
I emailed him and I was like, hey, what do you got? When are you coming out? And he's like, well,
yeah,
I think he got it to where he kind of liked it, and then he was looking for somebody to like manufacture it. And last I heard, he had settled or signed on with Notch to do it, and I think they're developing it still.
yeah,
Whether it's maybe this year or next year, it's hard to say.
yeah,
But it seems like it's pretty close. It's kind of exciting. It's cool to see all the cool stuff coming out right now. It seems like this year and last year, it's like there's like a bunch of stuff. You got like the throttle, you got the Notch came out with their Vertec. There's there was that
Blackbird,
Blackbird.
yeah,
Yeah. What else was there? There's what's the rope wrench almost it feels like a knockoff, but you know, it's got the opening
uh,
side plate and the adjustable pins.
oh, it's like is it a Fusion or is that the
Yeah.
Tetherdown?
No, maybe it's the Fusion. Yeah.
I
And
know what
then
you're talking about though. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So like all this stuff, like, all coming out. And so it's kind of cool. Pretty exciting.
yeah,
It definitely I feel like I came up right just at the right time where I was like old school right into new school, like that transition.
yeah.
Like I was in the middle of my like sort of learning phase when like SRT came out and like the first mechanical, like the rope runner first came out. It's like, dude, I almost blew up when I saw the video for the rope runner, the first video. I was like, what is that? Like, give me
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I have to have it, but I can't afford it. Damn
They
it.
it was so funny. Our company had this like policy that it was like if it's not CE marked or something,
Yep.
or it basically came down to like they're black and white of like if I'm not familiar with it, we're just not going to allow it. But
Yep.
like one guy at our company had the OG rope runner, and he would like pop it out on a job, and everybody like oh, like
What?
bowing
Oh
down.
my
You're like,
God.
please, please, master, let us climb.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was lucky enough that the company that I was working for, they were pretty tolerant. Like at one point I was like climbing around on a homemade saddle that I had made like with leather and straps. and, and then I'd have, I was like splicing my own stuff for like, you know, uh all kinds of like Prussics. I was splicing my own Prussics. I was splicing little like friction savers, stuff like that. With like, with hardware, I went to like West Marine and I got like shackles or stuff from West Marine. And like, it's not tree gear. It's like this is boating stuff, you know. But like, hey,
Yeah.
I think at some point they were like, hey, so maybe don't climb on that homemade saddle. Okay, I was like, okay, I could do, yeah, I could do
All right, that's fair.
that. Fair enough, yeah. And then like all the early Akimbos, like I was climbing on all the like prototypes, like at work all day, where it's like, I'd stop and think about it for a minute. I was like, I made this in my garage, and like, I really don't know if it's gonna work. But how do I find out? Like,
Yeah.
I gotta climb on it, right? See if it works.
Yeah.
But
Man.
yeah, that was super lucky. Like, I don't think like a lot of places you really wouldn't be able to get away with that. Like, especially a bigger place, you know, with an actual safety program.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I guess we don't have to harp on the Akimbo too much because I'm sure a lot of people are really familiar with the device. But like as we're talking about origin stories, you were you like machining a lot of these parts to kind of tinker and uh, try to dial in what you wanted it to be? Or?
well, yeah. So like, I've got a woodworking background and I've got woodworking tools. I've always had a shop. I still do. And so, aluminum is super forgiving. You can, with a regular carbide tool, you can cut aluminum just fine on a table saw with a router and a bandsaw.
Hmm.
And so all of the early prototypes, um, I just had my drill press and my router and my bandsaw and a belt sander. And so I would, draw out the shape and I'd cut it. At first, what I would do is I would cut the first piece, sand it to where I wanted it, and then use the router with a pattern bit to copy it, basically.
Hmm.
So the router bit has a bearing on top, and then the flutes are flush with the bearing. So you run the pattern up against the bearing, and then it cuts the piece below to the exact same shape,
Yeah.
right? So you just run it around and copy it like that. So like the whole first, couple of years, probably all those Akimbo prototypes I made that way. And then at some point, I found out about water jet cutting and CAD. So I got like, I think SketchUp I started with, the CAD program, free CAD program. So I'd like draw it out on SketchUp and then send it out to a place that does water jetting. Like at first there was a local place, they would do it for me. And then I found out it was way cheaper if you like, there's a place like in Colorado, they would do it like for way cheaper.
Wow.
So I would have the pieces water jet and that just cuts the profile, right? The 2D shape. And then in the shop, I'd come back and I would, drill out the holes to size because it's rough. The water jet doesn't leave like a perfect finish. You drill out the holes and then you'd kind of any chamfers and stuff on the edges to break the sharp edges. You do that with the router on a router bit. And then I didn't even get a mill until maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Wow.
uh, yeah. And so all of those, yeah, they're all pretty much handmade. Um, which,
Man.
like I said, aluminum is really forgiving. It's really
Yeah.
actually kind of fun to work with. Um, Especially like from that woodworking background, you can just like work it like wood almost. It's so soft.
And was it always kind of the I don't remember if you've ever shared pictures of that early design, but was it always like the two cam system where it was like two parts of the akimbo pressing on it, or how did it originally look? Similar to
Yeah.
what the first one was, or
So the full story is that there was the bulldog bone.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So Gordon, he had before he had the bulldog bone, he had all kinds of cool ideas. He was always messing around with the chain links and trying to do stuff with those chain links. And he had this thing that looked it was basically it was basically a unisender, but with longer arms. Same concept, right? The rope runs up and it's got two points that pinch the rope as they cam upwards, and then it's a whole series of like three of them in a row. Um, and so he was showing that off at the tree buzz or tree house, and I was like, hey, I want to try it out. Like, I want to check it out. Like, and so he was nice enough to like send it to me and let me play with it.
yeah,
And I thought it was super cool. And I started like modifying. I asked him, I was like, hey, can I modify it? Can I play with it? And I was like, yeah. And so I started modifying it and then really got into it. Like, I made my own. and then really started modifying it, and then it was becoming something totally different. And he's like, hey, that is my idea. Like, maybe chill out a little bit. I was like, okay, sure, sure. You got it. I got carried away. Sorry. Uh, and then like, but one of the parts that I had made for this device that I was doing was exactly the lower cam for the Akimbo.
Hmm.
Like, like no changes at all. And so I had that lower cam. I had somebody machine that for me because it's not a shape that I could make with the bandsaw and the belt sander and everything. So I had a local shop machine it for me. So I had like 5 or 6 of them. I was like, I can't like these are like such cool parts. I got to figure something out.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd make a lanyard adjuster, and that was the akimbo shape, like the top arm, the bottom arm. It didn't open. Um, that I came up with that later,
So you
but
had to
like
feed it through like the,
yeah, you had to feed
feed a
it
lineage.
through.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a pin. You pulled a pin. I don't even think I got that far. It was just like bolted together. Like, let's see if it even works.
Yeah.
And then I tested it out and it worked better than I thought it was going to work. And so I just kind of kept running with it. And so the very first akimbo, it didn't have a roller on the bottom. It didn't have a spring in the top. It was just and it didn't have a cam in the top either. It was just a pin. There was a pin and another pin, and the bottom had a big round baller, but it didn't spin, right? And then that bottom cam shape, and then just like through iterations of like, first I figured out like how do you make it open, right? So I came up with that scissoring mechanism to get it to open, and then I was like, okay, well, it needs to be adjustable because I was testing it. And I tested it and be like, oh, this works great. And then I'd get
Yeah.
another rope and it's like, oh no, this is garbage. Like it doesn't work at all. So like it needs some kind of way, some way to adjust it. And then figuring out how to do that in the space. Like it was so compact, it's like you only have like this tiny little space to figure out like how to get it to
How to
stay
get micro
put.
adjustments and yeah.
Yeah, and then like you're putting it under load, just got to be strong enough, and then just like playing around with like different versions or settings or ways to do it over and over and over and over again. uh,
And did you get some of the guys at your with your that you work with to be able to tinker with it, or were you kind of still dialing it in just yourself?
I mean, I did all the modifications and everything. I'd have them like try it out every now and then and
Yeah.
be like, "Hey, check it out, try it now," But I didn't feel safe like actually letting them like climb on
Yeah.
it. Like I was climbing on it at work, but I was always like, this is if I fall out of the tree, it's my fault. Like if I give it to somebody else and they fall out of the tree, that's not okay. Uh, but yeah, so it was like, and then I was still on the treehouse and stuff, so I started posting pictures of it and started getting feedback from all the guys on there. So like all of these like, oh, you got to have a roller on the bottom, like you need a spring in there, it won't work without a spring, and you know all that stuff like really helped me out. Like I don't think I would have come up with all that on my own,
Yeah.
like just having all that feedback and stuff. And then like people were like super enthusiastic about it, and that was really cool. And it
Yeah.
made me really inspired to like keep working on it. Um,
Because I can
but
imagine if you didn't have that community or like spark from other people, it's easy to like hit a wall and you're like, I feel like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, because one of those things is like, it works. It's fun to play with. It kind of works for me. But then where people are like, "Oh man, that's awesome. Like I want to try it." It's like, "Okay, well, if I'm going to let someone else try it, it's got to be better, you know?
hmm,
It's got to be like fully functional, not
yeah.
just like garage stuff." Um, but yeah, it was kind of like once it got to that stage, it started to get like really exciting and like all the little discoveries from people like helping me out, is like, oh yeah, the roller does make it better. Like, oh yeah, the spring like does make it better. And then just having somebody tell me like where to get better hardware was like, I was using like just stuff I got at Home Depot and this guy was like, hey, if you go to this site that specializes in aviation hardware, you can get these bolts that are, I mean, it's nerdy, but it's like you can get bolts that like specify the length of unthreaded shank on the bolts, which is like you can't get that at the hardware store, you know? And then for like all the little like I was saying, like trying to figure out how to make everything work in this small little space, like that becomes a thing. Like it's like, okay, I need the shaft to act as an axle, but I also need the bolt to bolt onto the end, but I don't want threads more than this far. And it's like finding that site that's like, oh man, like it measures the threads down to the like 16th of an inch. Like this is
Wow.
great. Like this is amazing. You know, and I never would have found that if somebody didn't like
Yeah.
pointed, steer me towards it. Um, so yeah, it was like really fun. Um, and then at some point, I actually put it in a YouTube video, and it just kind of like blew up a little bit. And then I started getting calls from people who wanted to like buy it, like or manufacture it, right? So like, Cheryl Tree called me, and Rock Exotica called me. We're like, hey, we'd like to like license it or buy it or like something. You interested? And I was like, hell yeah, I'm interested. Like, I don't think I could ever make this commercially
At full
myself.
scale or
Like,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like let alone like the liability, like
Yeah.
yeah, the scale, like all that stuff. Like, um, so yeah, that was that was when I got together with Rock, and it just made the most sense to go with them because like I liked
Yeah.
their stuff. Like their aesthetic was really cool. They're like their factories here in the U.S. Like they make everything in the U.S.
Well, and
They're like
they already have the Unicenter,
they
right?
had the
And
Unicenter, yeah,
so
and I thought the
yeah,
Unicenter was cool. Like I'd never
yeah,
used it, but I thought it was really cool. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, that like totally made sense to go with them. And then you know, we worked out a deal, signed a contract. So now they have a license to produce and market the Akimbo for
yeah.
forever.
That's
Not
awesome.
forever, but 70 years or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, and then it took like forever to get it to market, get it actually finished and ready to go. Just because, I mean, when I signed it up with them, it wasn't like, it wasn't 100% done. It was still, it was still a garage product, basically. You know what I mean?
but they could see like they were like this is gonna
Oh
probably
yeah,
be a
yeah. They
huge
could see
thing.
like, yeah. At that point, there had been no CNC milled version. It was still like the flat cut, and then post processed out of my garage version. And I did learn how to use SolidWorks, the CAD program,
Hmm.
if you're familiar with it. It's like the legit like big
Like
time CAD
somebody who's
program.
making like manufacturing parts and doing machine work is using that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the big ones. And so like I was getting better at like modeling, like actually making the 3D models and stuff. And so I could take that to them, and then them for me, like I was only learning like that industrial design part. So I brought it to them, and it's like, okay, we got to basically redo,
hmm.
un undo part of the stuff that you've done, because I I had no like making it by hand. It's easy to like make everything fit, right? If you're going to make it machine it, like CNC especially, like you have to know ahead of time, like what are the tolerances, like how tight do you want them to fit, and what is the number to get it to fit the way you want it to fit. Like I had no idea how to do that, right?
Yeah,
So like we had to go through all that and get it all tuned up, and then you make the first prototype on their machines, and then you get it home and you climb on it, and it's not nothing like the ones that you were making at home,
yeah.
right? You're like, oh
It's
wait,
probably a
now I
super
gotta,
hard thing to
yeah, like now I
work
gotta do
with.
a whole
Yeah,
bunch more troubleshooting to like figure out like, okay, what was different? Like why is it behaving different? Like what did I do? Is it the different, like it's crazy how different like little things like affect everything. It's even like the type of aluminum you use is it would behave different on the rope. So like the type of aluminum I was using was just like you go to the hardware store and you buy aluminum, right? and they're using like aircraft grade aluminum, which is a lot harder, and it's a lot, um, I guess slipperier is the word, on the
Huh.
rope. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
grip as hard, because I don't know if it's a smoother finish or whatever, but it just behaves differently. So we had to like, go through all that, and then of course, when I signed on with them, there's other products ahead of me that they're working on. So they had to, run through those before they get to me and the Akimbo, and that took a while, and then all kinds of other stuff. So it ended up taking like almost 3 years from
Yeah.
like signing to them to release. I think we released it in 2018,
Hmm.
something like that. But to segue into the Akimbo 2, there
Yeah.
was there was a lot of stuff that I had or wanted to have in the original Akimbo that I just had to like, okay, it's been 3 years. We got to get this thing out. Like, I'm just gonna put that stuff to the
Because if you
side,
kept tweaking it,
and
you would
yeah,
just be
you just
restarting the process over and over again.
tweak it forever,
Yeah.
and ever and ever and ever. And that was like, part of the thing. I think a lot of people were kind of upset that it took that long because I just kept like part of the problem was I just kept tweaking it, like kept changing it, changing it, changing it. It's like, okay, stop, stop, get it out there. But yeah, so there's some things that are in the Akimbo 2 that I wanted in the Akimbo 1 that just didn't make it because I was like, okay, cut it off, got it, you know, let's go. And so yeah, it was like, it was really successful, and it's done really well apparently. Um, there is a lot of like, I think all the devices, like, people either love it or they hate it, right? There's a lot of people who are like, this is the best thing ever, and then a lot of people are like, this thing sucks, I hate it, you know? And so the people who say that, it sucks, I hate it, like, those are the people I really listen to. It's like, well, okay, what do you hate about it? Like, what is it that you don't,
Yeah.
like, what is it that bothers you about it? Like, tell me, I want to know. Like, I don't want you to tell me that the thing is awesome. Like, that's great. That doesn't help me. Like, I want to know, like, what is it that needs to be better on this? And so, there was like, immediately like wet ropes and sappy ropes, like no bueno, right?
Hmm.
And then people didn't like the spring clip on the tending point. Well, people that didn't like it. Um, there was like, it's a little bit finicky to get adjusted on ropes, like humidity and stuff like that will affect it, and you kind of have to change it all the time. Um, what else? Well, the ropes list, right? So we
Approved
started test
ropes kind of thing.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like when we were developing it, we started doing testing on it, and it was like, oh, well, it doesn't do great on every single rope. Like some of these ropes, it just doesn't like you do a drop test, and it just doesn't pass the drop test on that rope. Um, and so eventually we're like, look, we're just gonna have to like test all the ropes, and then the ones that work well, we'll approve them. The ones that don't, we'll have to just leave them off the list.
And it's kind of like
Uh,
giving protection to Rock Exotica basically by having the approved list, I guess.
Yeah, because if you say it's working for any size rope from here to here and it doesn't, then that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's a big liability, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to do the approved ropes list just because it didn't work on some ropes, even though they were the same diameter as another rope.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one of the big things that I tried to fix on this one, is to just get it to be consistent from 11.5 to 12.7. All those ropes work. And I think I worked on this, like I started really actually working on it like 5 years ago maybe.
Akimbo too. Yeah.
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 So I've been working on it for a while. Um and I think I tried to address all of the points of complaint, the big ones. And I think I did. I don't think I've solved any of them like 100%, but I think I've improved all of them
Hmm.
to some extent. So it doesn't have an approved ropes list. It, you know, does perform better with SAP. It has a secondary attachment point, so if you don't like the spring clip, you can use that. It has replaceable parts, was another piece that was like a big people would always comment on. And part of that was just Rock Exotica wasn't really comfortable with the
Yeah.
liability of like having a piece that you end user could take apart and then put back together. There's like all kinds of opportunities for screwing that up.
So is
But
the replaceable part like the Grude's bollard area, like after it gets enough wear, or
yeah, so
but
so the roller, it rolls, right? It doesn't really wear
yeah,
out. The upper bollard, the upper adjustment cam or adjustment bollard, that's stainless steel, so it lasts a good long time.
yeah,
The upper cam is aluminum and the bottom cam is aluminum, and those are the parts that will be replaceable.
okay,
So those are the parts that really wear down
yeah.
over time. Um, what else?
I was watching a reel before we recorded this. Nick Bonner was doing like a desktop thing of the new
Uh,
one. With
yep.
I think he said that the spring moved to the other side from where it
Yeah.
originally was.
Yeah. So the spring was in this cam here, and then we moved it. I moved it to the actual joint of the arm, so the whole thing
Okay.
is sprung. And so that was one of the complaints was like the old one. If you have it on the rope and you put the rope under tension, it would want to jiggle down the rope. So this spring placement it has a little more leverage, so it holds it on the rope. So no matter how much you shake it, it's not going to slide down the rope.
Yeah.
And then additionally, it actually the problem with SAP was because of that spring placement, this cam could move up and down, right? It had to because it was spring loaded. Well, what
Hmm.
would happen is the nose of the cam would get hit with the sap, and the cam would spring up and basically jam against the bollard and just act like a rope grab,
Huh.
and then it would be locked on. So
Yeah.
now this cam is fixed in place. It can't move up and down. The whole arm does. So even if you get sap and you get jammed up, if you pull hard enough on the arm, you will still be able to descend. I mean, it's not perfect. It's still going to be like crappy and sappy, but you won't get stuck.
Like everything with SAP, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
hard to
mean,
avoid
yeah.
that at some point.
Show
Yeah.
me, show me the one that, show me the device that works great. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, the Unicenter is pretty good with SAP, just because it's sort of like bypasses the problem of parts that jam against the rope, jamming too hard. When you take the wrap over the top of the Unicenter, you're essentially turning it into a figure eight. Like you're descending off of a figure eight type device,
And
where
then
no matter
the stuff it passes through, it's almost like passing through or rubbing it off as it goes. Because it's like, isn't it like stacked levels of like
yeah, it's
four or
stacked.
five?
It's
Yeah.
like clutches. But because when you wrap the rope over there, it forces the clutches to disengage.
Hmm.
So you're just running on the friction of the rope running over and around the top,
Yeah.
like you would with a figure eight running through the figure eight, rather than the clutches are not doing anything at that point. They're
Yeah.
they're deactivated until you let the rope go.
Yeah.
So, that's one way to get around SAP, but it's hard to it's hard to do. SAP is the devil.
Yeah. Man. Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's super cool to hear that story. I'm sure you shared it in many different ways, and I feel like we could talk for hours just on all the tinkering and all the innovation. But yeah, I think I'm guessing it's like do all the main people have it and it's on pre-order or something like that, or
So they started shipping them out from the factory last week. I think I just saw on Instagram Wesper changed their ad from pre-orders to in stock.
awesome.
Yeah, so I
That's
think that
great.
just went. I think that just happened today.
Okay.
So yeah, they should be. I mean, it's fat. They're sending them out. I think they're telling me that they're looking at like 200 a week that they're pumping out. So it should get out to everybody pretty soon. Next, couple weeks.
I saw that picture you posted of like a bunch of them laid out. Did they send that from
Yeah,
the factory or something? That was like it's like I don't know what the word is, like ASMR or something. Like that
yeah,
picture, it
yeah.
was like, oh,
So since like 2018, they sent me. I got this picture of the factory.
oh, is that your
They sent me.
wallpaper?
That's my wallpaper on my phone. So I was like, hey, I want another picture like that, but for the Akimbo too. Can you get me a picture like that? And then they
Oh
sent
my
me that one.
gosh.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like, endless army, like off into the distance.
that's so sick.
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, I'll put this out on Monday, but those who are listening or watching on YouTube or whatever, definitely go check out all the suppliers who have it and get one. Because I mean, I love the original Akimbo, but I'm excited about the second one. But I also was wondering, is the because this one's purple, is it like an anodized, similar to like DMM, like an anodized color on the metal? How
Yeah.
does that work?
Yeah. The old one's anodized too. They're all
Yeah,
anodized. Um, but we just went with purple because we're trying to figure out. It's like, okay, we could do it the same blue, but we want to like differentiate it a little bit, so people can
yeah,
see like, okay, this is the Akimbo too. And so we did like we tested a whole bunch of colors, and then every single time that I, asked somebody like, hey, of these colors, like 99% of people are like, oh, the purple, like
yeah. For
use a
some reason
purple.
that's always stuck with me too. I think my first rope wrench that I got that I bought personally, I had one with a company, but I bought one personally one year for Christmas, and it was like a purple ISC wrench, and
Uh
it
huh.
like for some reason it always stuck with me because it matched. Like I climbed on ecstatic and it just looked good with everything. And then
Yep.
I think the purple Rope Runner Pro is like one of their top sellers too. So
Oh yeah.
that's cool that you guys went with that color. So
Yeah. I was surprised how many people were like really jazzed on that color because I think it looks great. I think a lot of the other colors look good. But I think I kind of had an assumption that people would just like kind of like not like it because it's purple, almost. It's a little
hmm.
girly, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, really not. Like people are like, oh yeah, that one for sure.
Yeah, maybe it's just something of how it pops with like
Mm,
because everybody has so many like different ropes and colors, and maybe
yeah,
purple is just that one that fits with everything, right? So
yeah, for sure. And that shade of purple is really nice too.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very like,
darker.
mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all that, and I appreciate kind of the conversation we've had so far. Dial it down with a kind of couple closer questions if you have a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd love to hear. I know we were trying to segue into it earlier, but you were talking about a memory of yours you had when you were 7, right? Of like
Oh
you were
yeah.
climbing a tree.
Yeah. That was like I said, I was climbing trees all the time, and I went over to a friend's house down the street, and he had two big mulberry trees in the backyard, but they were terrible climbing trees because they had a big straight trunk before they branched out, so you couldn't really get to the first branch.
Yeah,
So we wandered across the street, and the neighbor had a nice big cedar tree, like a western red cedar, in the yard, and it's like a ladder. It's
yeah.
great, just climb right up. And so we climbed right up, and like I was climbing ahead of him, and I got up to a little point where I looked over and it was like the power lines are right there. And I was like, oh man, we climbed way up here, And I was like, hey, check out how high we got. And I pointed at him and I got close enough to actually, the line arced over.
Oh my gosh.
And so it like knocked me over backwards. And somehow my ankle caught in the branches and I was hanging upside down. And it must have been continuing to arc because like once the arc established, it was still going. And so my friend, he got shocked through his hands on the trunk of the tree. He let go and like jumped out of the tree and then ran across the street screaming. And luckily, there were two guys walking down the street. They saw the sparks and like heard him screaming, and they ran over. They climbed up the tree and they pulled me down. Um, and like I wasn't unconscious, but I wasn't. I couldn't. It was kind of funny because it's like, do you remember old TV screens have the snow, the black and white snow on the old
Oh
TV
yeah.
screen,
Yep.
Like that's basically what I could see. I
Oh
could
my
still hear.
gosh.
I could hear everything, but I couldn't see anything but the snow. And then I had like a dream that I was in court and like the judge was like trying to like judge me or whatever, and I was like guilty, and he was like trying to get me with the gavel, and then the whole scene broke up, and I heard the guy. He's like, "I'm gonna get you down. Like we got you, whatever." And so they pulled me down to the ground, and I'm like laying on the ground, and there's like a whole bunch of people over me, like, "There's one here, there's one here." They're like talking about the burns on my legs and arms and stuff. And yeah, so they rushed me to the hospital, and I think my mom ended up with a lot of gray hair after that one.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it I ended up with some entry wounds on my hands, on each hand, and then an exit wound on my knee and my ankle. And I had to get some skin grafts, and I ended up like kind of in and out of the hospital for about a year, like because they didn't want to do all the skin grafts at once. So like did my hands, and then I went back and they did my legs and stuff like that. But yeah, it turned out that tree was on the schedule to get pruned because it was too close to the lines, right? You shouldn't even be able to
Yeah.
get that close. It should be like 10 feet. So it was scheduled to have been pruned like earlier that week, but the crew that was supposed to prune it had not pruned it for some reason, skipped it. So
Oh my
they
word.
there was some legal action between my mom and PG&E for that. But
That is
yeah,
so
that was
wild.
that was um that was 7 years old, and it didn't scare me away from trees for some reason.
It's like you had a destiny for it or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. And it was funny because I was just telling somebody the other day that you think like that'd be pretty traumatizing, like you think I have nightmares about it or whatever, but it like the only thing that really affected me, at least like that I can tell. I mean, I'm sure there was plenty of stuff that maybe I should have had therapy for, but like you have flying dreams when you're a kid, right? And like you have the like classic like doggy paddle through the air dream.
Yeah.
So I would have those dreams where it's like you got to get a running start and you got a doggy paddle, and you get to it just right, and you catch it, and you're flying, you're flying. But then it'd be like, ah, oh, damn it, there's power lines right there, and I'd run into the power lines. But I knew that if you weren't grounded, you wouldn't get electrocuted, right? So it was just more of an annoyance. It was not like, oh no, the power lines. It was like, damn it, they're in the way. Get out of the way. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get higher. Like I'd touch them and like pull myself off of them and
Trying to
like
climb around them. Yeah.
yeah, trying to climb around, but they're just like always right in the way for some reason, but never like in a dangerous way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some psychology there, I'm sure. But but yeah, I mean, I think I just love climbing so much that it there's no way I would stop doing it. It was just like yeah, I don't know. It's like really freeing, you know?
Yeah.
Just like and just so physical. Like especially as a kid, you got all that energy.
Well, it's
Um,
probably because also like not like you had that experience, but also I'm sure you had plenty of experiences, like you said, of like climbing 90 feet up in a redwood, and
yeah,
you can't really undo that feeling once you have it, and it's like
right.
kind of like your brain's locked in of like, yeah, might have had a traumatic thing, but also I experienced what maybe like one in a million people will experience, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of more frustrating that I can't get out there and climb like, tomorrow
Yeah.
because I gotta,
Yeah.
I gotta wait for this cast to come off. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like just the perspective, like being up in a tree is such a different like way to look at the world, you know? I think I think people who get into drugs and like altering your mind, drinking or, doing all that, it's just it's like trying to get a different perspective, like trying to see the world in a different way.
Yeah.
And you can go about it that way. You can go about it like people get into extreme sports, like people get into like doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and we do it. But we climb we climb trees.
Yeah. I think I heard Jeff Inman put it one time of like you kind of get this unique thing of like you might go to work like a multimillionaire's house and like
Hmm.
you might not ever get to his position financially and you might not ever live in a mansion and have those cars, but he's never going to be able to look at his house from at the top of this tree.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
like the only one up you have on him. Like, well, I could see
Yeah.
the top of your house from this 100-foot oak, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
that might not be a verbatim quote. So Jeff, if you hear that, sorry if there's a misquote there, but
Yeah.
I've always thought that was kind of funny. But
Yeah. I like that aspect of it too. That just going to different places all the time. I've seen so many people's houses from the top of the tree. you know. And I've been to houses that's like in the poor part of town. I've been to houses in the rich part of town, like
Yeah.
seeing different people's landscapes, seeing like what they do in their yards, seeing like just all that stuff is all really interesting and
Well,
fascinating.
and Santa Cruz too. Like, we're in Middle Tennessee, and there is some like there's beauty around here. But I grew up in this area in Georgia and Tennessee, and so it's familiar. But something about California, and we talked about before this. Like, I've been to Santa Cruz once, and it's so beautiful. I mean, I'm sure it almost is like what would you call it? Like a sensory overload. Is it like in
For
California?
sure.
There's just so much going on, like so much beauty and like the sights and the sounds. You're like, whoa, like,
I think you get used to it at a certain point, right? Because
yeah,
it's you're around it every day. But it's certainly like some days you're like, oh wow, like wait a minute, like look at this view, you know,
yeah,
or you know, just like I said before, it's so varied. You know, you get the coast, and then you get the mountains, and like in Santa Cruz especially, it's like the coast and the mountains are only like 10 miles apart, right? So it's like you drive 20 minutes up Highway 9 and you're in the mountains like
hmm,
redwoods and fir trees and all that stuff. You drive, you know, half hour south or 40 minutes south, and it's like Monterey, city of Monterey, you know, coastal town with all
yeah,
the fog and all the cool cypress trees out on the, you know, out on the edge of the ocean, like that cool view out there. So yeah, I mean, it does. I think I try to appreciate it all the time
yeah,
as much as I can. Because you do kind of forget sometimes that it's like this is not every day. Like you get to see this kind of stuff. It's special for sure.
yeah. That's awesome.
But I
Well,
try not to post too many. Try not to post too many like ocean views. Like it'd get boring after a while, you know. It's like
well,
okay, here's the 30th ocean view for the week.
Drew Bristow, DB Tree.
Hmm.
He's in like Fiji, and he does
Oh
like
yeah.
the gets all those contracts for the filmmakers, but
Oh yeah.
it's like he'll post those pictures at the top of Coco's, and you're like, man, that's insane the
Yeah.
views that you have right now. But I'm sure, I think he said before, it's like, yeah, you kind of get somewhat used to it, and
Yep.
but also it's freaking hot and
And it
hard,
still sucks when you got to
and
lug
it
the
still
66 up
sucks.
there. You know, it's a
Yeah,
hot day and you just want to get down and take lunch.
yeah. I couldn't do that. I don't know. You probably have climbed palms up where you are, but I couldn't do those. Like he shows those videos of the palms just going like
Yeah.
this when the winds come in that way. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, they did. If it gets windy, we don't really climb those ones. I mean, we get
Yeah,
the Mexican fan palms. They'll get pretty tall. There's some that are like 60, 70 feet tall around here, but they're not super numerous, so we don't do them that often.
yeah.
And most of the time, if it's windy like that, you know, we're almost always in a situation where you can't drop the fronds out of the tree if there's a breeze because they're going to go, you know, half a block over. You don't know where they're going to land,
Yeah.
you know, and then to
And they're
have to
pretty
like,
heavy, aren't they? Like, I mean, it's like falling from that height. It can be pretty heavy if it
oh,
hits
dude,
something.
we had an accident a long time ago where, you know, we were doing these Mexican fan palms and I was in the palm and I cut the frond and I threw it and my coworker was coming into the yard like way over there and it flew like a paper airplane. It went wee like this and I was like, oh, you know, yelled like look out and he looked up and it smacked him right in the face. It knocked him
Oh my
unconscious,
gosh.
like knocked him to the ground. It didn't break his nose, but it split his nostril open here. And
Oh
like, dude,
wow.
I came down as fast as I could. I was like, "Are you okay?" He was like, "Yeah." We had to take him to hospital. It was crazy. Yeah, they're dangerous. They're for sure dangerous,
Wow.
especially the fan palms because their fronds are like, you know, like big fans, and if you drop them from that height, especially if they catch the wind, they will fly. Like it was a good like 80 feet from the tree that I dropped it from that he got
Jeez.
hit. Yeah, they're nuts. And then we got the canary palms, which are the big ones with the big like pineapple shaped bowl at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they have these big long fronds they're super heavy, but they also have these really wicked spines at the base of the frond. And so you have to be really careful because they're like super sharp. They'll go through a leather glove, like they'll go through, you know, your shoes if you don't have like heavy leather shoes. And there's something about the spines that I don't know if it's like a toxin or just like dirt, crud, like rat pee or whatever. But like, you get like I've been stabbed with them where it's like basically like paralyzed my hand for a couple
It's like a
days.
little venom almost that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, I
Locust
suspect.
trees do that, yeah, to us
Uh-huh,
out
yeah,
here, yeah. Man.
yeah, they're nasty, but we don't do them all the time. Like every now and then we'll do them.
And there's like there's
Thank
almost like an
goodness.
entire ecosystem up in there too. Like you
Oh
have
yeah,
like a ton of
yeah.
creatures that live up in there.
I don't think I've ever done a canary palm that didn't have some kind of creature in it, like a bird's nest, an owl, a raccoon, rats, like lots of rats, lots
Oh
of
my
squirrels,
gosh.
and lots of doves for some reason. Doves like to nest up there.
Wow.
Yeah, and then all kinds of bugs and spiders and stuff. So yeah,
Man.
they're fun the first time. After that, not so much.
Yeah. Well, I guess to wrap it all up, we ask every episode this because I think a lot of arborists have different favorites here. But do you have a favorite tree throughout all your years and places you've been? Like it could be species or maybe an individual tree that you can think of. Either one.
Well, I've got lots of favorites for lots of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think one of my favorite trees to climb is a nice big redwood with like really good like ladder branches, just because you can just get so high with like so little effort. But like the oak trees, the coast live oak is like such a cool tree to, you know, sort of monkey around in. Just like,
Hmm.
you get a really big coast live oak and it's got like, alleyways, like walkways. You can just walk around up there. Um, I've got favorite trees to prune. I like pruning birch trees, and I oddly enough, I like pruning sycamore trees. I hate the dust, right?
Oh my
But
gosh. Yeah.
just the feel of sycamore under the handsaw for some reason, like sawing through that wood, is really satisfying. And then for somehow like aesthetically to me, like figuring out how to prune a sycamore, like getting it all layered out is very satisfying for some reason. I don't know. It seems like they're
Yeah.
easy. They're easy to make them look good.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a perfect
you know,
description of the handsaw. I never thought about that, but it is like it's like the hard bark, but then once you get your saw into it, you're like, well, it's a I don't know, satisfying is an
it's
interesting
very
word to put that.
satisfying.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the wood is very consistent, to cut through. It's just like, yeah, with a sharp saw. Very nice. And
yeah,
birch trees are the same. Like when you do a birch tree and you make it look really good, I think they look really good. And there's a tendency to people around here a lot. They want to just top them because for some reason they get scared when they get a little big. They're like, oh, it's getting too big. It's like it's a birch tree. What do you mean? Like it's only
yeah.
like 30 feet tall. They don't even get that big over here.
Are these
Um,
like white birch or
yeah, or paper
yeah,
bark birch. We get a lot of European birch.
yeah? We have a lot of
Um,
river birch here.
mhm.
I don't think the white can do as well here, but
I think I think there is a native birch in California, but all the ones we deal with are all planted non-natives.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think I don't I don't have a single favorite tree. I have a favorite tree for every different reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like them all,
That's
and
awesome.
not even talking about fruit trees. I love fruit trees for
Oh
sure.
my gosh. Oh man, I was meaning to ask you earlier. You were talking about that growing up, you had persimmon there. Did you guys have um the big persimmon ones that like are like more like culinary, or like the smaller common persimmon?
So
Because we
we
have a
don't.
lot of the common persimmon here.
Yeah, California does not have the wild persimmon. We don't have a native wild
Okay.
persimmon. So all the persimmons out here are the cultivated, like the big ones.
Yeah.
But there's two different types. There's the astringent type and the non-astringent type. So like the the ones my grandmother had were the ones they have to be like dead ripe, like pudding consistency, super soft. And if
Hmm.
they're even just a little bit unripe, they're like super pucker your mouth, like dry your mouth out,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and that tree was like, it was always loaded, like tons of fruit on that tree, but nobody wants to eat that many persimmons, so it's like the squirrels would basically eat most of them.
Yeah.
But I have a whole bunch of persimmons at my house now that are the non-astringent type, and those are my favorite because you can pick them before they're like super dead ripe, and you could just eat them like an apple. and they taste great. They're
Yeah.
really really good.
Yeah, we've got the native one here, but the only limitation you have here is like it's like grows in a lot of timber and like other like forest edge, and so they'll get tall and like really like tall, slender trunks, and so that
Yeah,
fruit's
hard.
going to be pretty high off the ground, and then by the time it hits, like most of the time, other stuff is like the bees and squirrels and deer get to it,
Yep.
but these taste like I don't know if you're familiar with those freezer pops, like as a kid when you can throw them in the freezer and like they're all different colors. It
Uh-huh.
tastes like the pink and orange one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's like crazy iconic flavor, but
I have tried them. They don't grow here. I mean, people do grow them. Like I'm a member of the Rare Fruit Club in California,
hmm.
the California Rare Fruit Growers Club, and so some of the members there they grow them. So I've got to try a couple of them, and they're really good. They're like the flavor is really intense
But it's a much
on them.
smaller compared to
It's much smaller, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
for sure.
man. That's awesome. Well, Jamie, dude, thanks so much for your time. I know we went a little bit over 'em, but
That's fine.
I think when you get two tree guys together, when you
Yeah,
could just talk for a long time. So,
I've got more stories. There's
oh
tons
man,
more. We didn't even talk about gardening.
yeah, we might have to get into a second one on some gardening and mycology and all that. There's the guy who's on previously, Adam Pennington. He really loves that stuff too. So
Nice.
I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe we'll swing something like that. But,
right on.
cool. Well, yeah, thanks for everybody listening, joining on YouTube or Spotify. And like we talked about, the Akimbo 2 should be in stock at all the major places. So definitely go get you one. And Jamie, thanks for sharing your story, all the good memories. And we sure are glad you made it from 7 years old to now
Yeah.
to be able to contribute what you have. So that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. Well, you guys have a good rest of your week out when you do your jobs, and Jamie and I, we will connect on the other side of this call. All right. We'll see you guys.